Welcome to another episode of Marketing Operators. We're a couple days out from Q4. Everybody's super excited.
I'm pumped.
I could spend years on this topic.
We got a locking, guys. None of this dilly-dally. How was your week?
It's what we live for. It's the Super Bowl of e-com.
We introduce a new segment of sorts, MOperators Hotline. I've been talking to a bunch of people, as have Cody and Connor, with lots of great questions on content we've discussed throughout our 28 or so episodes so far. What we have today is a couple of those questions, which we answered. Can I ask you guys a personal problem that I've been having? Not personal, brand related. It's Rich.
I was gonna say, where's Connor going? I need new deodorant. I can't stop sweating.
Thanks for letting me tune into MOperators Hotline.
Cody, that was a good tag team.
He's giving out a lot of pro bono consulting, but he's also getting a fair bit. So.
And if you've got questions of your own, hit the link in the show notes. What are you working on? What do you need help with? What problems are you having in your brand? As always, thank you to our sponsors, Motion, Prescient AI, and Richpanel. I say we just get right into it. How do you guys feel about that?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So once Black Friday comes around, it's basically pencils down at that point with your ad creative. You pretty much need to have all of your testing done, understand what's working, what's not working, so you can roll those ads out for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and holiday to execute on your biggest time of the year and just really be in execution mode during that time of the year. So at HexClad, we are all about naming conventions. Connor McDonald often says naming conventions are the lifeblood of any e-commerce business, and we really believe in that. We set up our naming conventions in a way so it is incredibly easy to visualize what is working, what is not working using a tool like Motion. So we are tagging static ads, video ads, UGC, hi-fi, lo-fi, seasonal, evergreen, offer, any variable that you want to test in your ad account. As long as you input that into your naming conventions, you can then organize by your naming conventions in a tool like Motion to visualize data and compare those ads to one another and see which ads are performing above your benchmarks, at your benchmarks, below your benchmarks. You can figure out which new ads are incrementally or marginally better than the aggregate performance of that similar category. So if you launch a new batch of statics or a new seasonal holiday ad, you can compare to all your statics or all your seasonal holiday ads. That is how we approach it at HexClad. It is so important for us optimizing our creative stack and just understanding what's working both in an evergreen period and during a holiday offer period. So if you're ready to learn how the best DTC and e-commerce brands use Motion to ship winning Meta, TikTok, and YouTube ads, book a demo today or create a free account at motion.com. Motion offers a monthly subscription plan so you can dodge those annoying annual contracts. And if you mention Marketing Operators Podcast to Motion sales team, you can get 50% off your first month. Check them out at motion.com.
All right, here we go. Getting another episode in the books. No special guest day. We've got the big three. It is Thursday, September 26th, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We're a couple days out from Q4. Everybody's super excited. And I say we just get right into it. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm pumped.
We're locked in. It's almost Q4. We got a locking, guys. None of this dilly-dally. How was your week?
No more small talk. No more small talk.
We're here to work.
We've been I've been working with the team on our Q4 key results and initiatives for the next quarter for the last couple of weeks. It's fun to officially, I feel like for me, the sweepstakes launching was me closing that door. And now headed into Q4, we're opening up the BFCM holiday door, and I'm feeling reinvigorated, setting and collaborating with the team to set their KR&Is for the quarter, and looking at the BFCM plans and the numbers we're trying to hit. It's what we live for. It's the Super Bowl of e-com.
That's a very healthy outlook on it, I would say. Reinvigorated.
Yeah. Well, I'll be beaten down by it in 3 weeks. So
Yeah, so you tweeted that this week. You said, why hasn't someone built a universal analytics clone? Yeah. Have you found an answer yet?
A lot of companies that you guys are familiar with, a bunch of us use, seem to be building something or working on it, kind of an add-on product. I don't want to air it out, but happy to tell you guys individually. So I'm gonna do some demos, check it out. I don't even know. They were like, what exactly are you looking for? And I'm like, I don't really know. I don't really know what I'm looking for, but it's almost just a better user face, just to be able to get 3 basic reports. You just want a source medium. What do you guys think? What do you think you miss about UA that you don't really have in GA4? And if you were to build a product you'd want it to have?
Well, I was texting you guys this weekend about the server side tool that is kind of building in stealth right now, which to me is just a way better, more accurate version of GA4 because it's server side. It's not relying on any web page load. And because of that, you get more data and you get you get infinite attribution windows. Now the downside is they don't have impression logs, so it's clicks only. But I mean, I think they're gonna disrupt attribution in a major way. I won't mention them because they're building it in stealth right now, but I'm really impressed with the tool, and like we've been kind of a design partner with them, so it's been fun to like be like, oh, we can't do this with anything else right now. Can server side do this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I think we can do that. And then 2 days later, they'll be like, all right, we built out this filter. Is this answering the question you want? And for the most part, they're answering a lot of our questions, which is cool.
Yeah, totally. For me, it's I use or I struggle through GA4 for the exact same reason you just described. It's like, how do I better understand the quality of this site traffic with like on-site events, with time on site, pages per session, which just universal analytics still or GA4 supports that, but it's just so unintuitive and it's frustrating to like not get those answers quicker. And then the second one is at least something like a Northbeam or a Triple Whale, like at least from what I understand, they're mostly anchored around like individual users and then like ads, ad sets, campaigns, platforms. Like that's really the main form of dimensions. Whereas Google Analytics is based largely around, or you can use it for landing pages, for pages per session. You get all of this page data, and that's super, super valuable. And that's just hard to find other places. So now that becomes like completely counterintuitive, that's what I find myself longing for up at night, just hoping somebody somebody recreates universal
Just
analytics.
dreaming about naming conventions and missing UA.
I was gonna say the server side tool I mentioned is lacking in that stuff. Like you don't get
Right.
average time on site or like average pages per visitor, stuff like that. So that part is still I don't know exactly what the better option is.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys about a new channel that we're considering? I want your guys' take on it.
Yeah.
Have you heard of AdFlow?
No.
So have you ever like gone to United or a big airline, bought your ticket, and then you get that follow up offer where it's like, do you want Sirius FM for free for
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
months? Do you want so these guys, AdFlow, they're partnered with all sorts of these online checkout, or all sorts of brands like marketplaces, whatever, where you can do an online checkout. So their pitch to us was like, well, we're partnered with like Hy-Vee and all these grocery stores. Like we can hit someone that just spent $350 on groceries for the week with, a post-purchase ad for Hexclad. Now granted, I think we'd probably be one of 4 in that like flow, much like you see it's like Sirius XM, and then you get another offer, and then another offer, and then another offer, and then it's done. But I'm like, well, that is a great time. Like if they just bought $350 worth of groceries, I don't think it's unreasonable to put a $400 cookware set in front of
Mhm.
them. So we're kind of noodling with that. I'm not sure how I like it as far as like brand valence, but I do think it could perform well, and I like the moment in time that they're presenting and the intent that's like associated with that.
Is this how different is this from like network offers by Rocked? Have you seen that?
It sounds
No.
similar to Rocked.
Just on the site, it seems pretty similar. Where like, so if somebody goes to jonesborebeauty.com and they might see then like a pop up for Hexclad. Is that right?
Yeah.
After
Yeah.
like
Exact.
after
Exact same
they
ad
order. I mean,
experience.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But they don't partner with like it's not like Disco where you would show up like my products would show up on another brand site, and in exchange for that I'm showing other brands products on Hexclad site, which I think that is a cool ad unit. We have decided just for like brand marketing reasons that we don't want to promote too many other brand products on our site. So we've decided not to do that. But it's more so like marketplaces is my understanding. And we also don't have to like I don't need to reciprocate because we're advertising on Hy-Vee, right? Like I don't
Sure.
also need to like push Hy-Vee, which was a
Right.
big
Totally.
thing for us. But I don't think it's brand to brand. I think it's only like brand to
Sure. Okay. I think
marketplace.
that's pretty similar to network offers. I mean, try it.
Dude,
Yeah.
Why
I
not?
think I think thank you pages are like the most valuable real estate online. Like
Yeah.
people online actively spending money. It's like, yeah, if you can get this I was bullish on Disco for a while. We don't use it currently, but yeah, same idea. And for you guys, since you're like, yeah, if you can serve in for groceries, there's all sorts of like relevant products that would crush.
Yeah.
I just had the thought this morning around Rocked. I'm like, you guys could probably make a killing with like HelloFresh affiliate offers in your post-purchase
Oh, that's the
page.
perfect one.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we are doing something like that. We have a partner where basically we can put inserts into complementary brands boxes. So we're using this company called Incremental Media. It's basically it's a direct mail.
Wow, we're
but
giving out all the alpha today.
it's basically direct mail just through other brands. And like you think about using a partner versus having to source all those deals individually, it's just like a huge time save. So we're excited about that. We think that'll work well.
Oh, I feel like that would crush for you, like Connor said, and HexCloud in a HelloFresh box.
All right, we have a new segment, I guess we'll call it. A little bit of backstory here. I was at the All In Summit a couple weeks ago, and I met a bunch of people who said they listened to the pod, and they had some fantastic questions. I had a really good time chopping it up with them, and I'm like, oh, dude, yeah, this is like I get to talk about my favorite episodes from the podcast, but in like a more applicable sense. So I proposed, let's start some sort of like sourcing process so people can submit questions if they have them, or issues, or whatever else. And we could potentially discuss them on the pod. So we're tentatively calling it MOperators Hotline. Uh, we're working on the branding, but I think it'll stick. So there will be a link in the show notes for people to submit questions if you've got questions about the episode or problems with your business, and there's a chance that we will talk about it on the pod. But we've got a couple lined up here that we can talk through today, and I think we'll cover some good ones. How does that sound to you guys?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I've got a good one. I know this came up. Another place this comes up is the Operators newsletter, which some people respond there and ask questions. And I know there were some questions around this one. Cody, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but let me run through it. This question is, how do you go about quantifying how much you can lower expectations on pre-Black Friday, Cyber Monday spend with the expectation of ROAS improvements come November? Example, if you normally take a 2.5x MER, but you decide 2x is fine for October because you know that will eventually lead to a 2.5x, how are you mathing that math? In short, how do you set targets leading up to BFCM to fill the funnel? Cody, this was one of your contributions. We talked about it on the pod. It was mentioned in the newsletter. I was hoping you could take a pass at this.
Yeah, but I want to hear how you guys would look at it as well. I would say this is where it's really helpful to have a monthly, weekly, daily plan versus actual that you can compare back to for previous years. And so, especially if you do a very similar, promotional calendar, you can see, hey, Black Friday, I get, my normal MER is a 4. Black Friday, I get an 8 or something like that. And so what we do when we finalize like a month and we have like our our KPIs, which is let's just say we have MER, spend, contribution margin, revenue for a month. Like we'll then break those down into dailies. I'll have on one tab open, I'll have my this year's, I'll have my last year's on another tab open, and I can actually see how a month normally trends based on historical stuff. Obviously, if there's any differences, like this year, you got Cyber Monday in December, like you will have to adjust for that. But I think that's the best way to do it, and just to kind of see, looking at your historicals, but then making any changes. And then I some of it is probably a little feel like maybe you want to be more aggressive this year. Well, you're not necessarily going to have historicals, but I want to just math, and I want to say, all right, well, what if I decide to spend 40% more, and that puts me, way more in the hole, way less efficient. Maybe I'm running at a 2.5, most of the month, but does that allow me to recoup a lot more value? And some of that, I don't have a great answer. You're just trying to feel it out, but you just want to make sure those projections that you have equal out to the total MER, the total contribution you want for the month, even though you're going to be much lower in the beginning.
What would you say, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Cody just said. I think we start with this year-end target, and then we just get more and more granular with it, and we're using, like Cody said, exactly, seasonal data to. It's not all right. Year-end MER divided by. It's not like if our year-end MER goal is a 5. It's not like it's a 5 every single month. We're seasonal. We know it's going to be lower months, and we know it's going to be higher than that some months. But all up, we need that to add into the year-end target. And yeah, you just need to lean into your seasonal historical data to understand how your revenue and efficiency are going to distribute throughout the year. And especially important in a November month where like as an example, this is not our actual goals last year, but let's say we were shooting for a 4x in November last year based on expectations set from the previous year of how our total revenue as a percentage each day and total efficiency each day as a plus or minus against the month end. We ran the business at like a 2 from November 1 through 13. and then above that 4 slightly for the rest of the month, and then that netted out to our 4. Like, that expectation setting is everything. Otherwise, you would have gotten to November 13th and be like, holy crap, we've only done 10% of our projected revenue for the month, and we're, 78% below our projected MER for the month. Oh my God, we are screwed. No, like, we expected that to happen. And it went according to plan. And then we launched our offers, and then we were above MER target for the month. But yeah, if you just take your last year's data, your revenue, and then like give each day a percentage of that, and then do the same for MER. We like to take the MER from each day and say how high or below was it compared to the month end goal. And then we just take our November projections, for example, and just plug those into those percentages, and that's our starting point. And then we might fudge them up or down, like Cody said, based on dates year over year or offer year over year. But generally speaking, that's like the starting point, and gets us pretty darn close.
Yeah, I would obviously agree. Yeah, we use historicals. If you didn't have historicals, a couple of the things we've talked about are looking at, you compare the delta between like a 1-day click or a 7-day click, or it doesn't really make sense. If you can compare 1-day click and 30-day click, this assumes you have some sort of MTA, because you can't do this in Facebook anymore. Then you can look at what period in time does that delta grow. So obviously we typically see, just as an example, a 50% delta. In the weeks leading up to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we see 100% delta. So we can be a little bit more confident that we could spend more dollars there, as they will be worth more over time. And that might help someone with maybe not strong historical data guide how they might distribute spend throughout the period.
So are you saying if you're seeing that 100x delta from 1 day to 30 day, can you like apply that growth to like revenue? So it's like, oh, I can expect double the revenue to start coming in once we launch the offers compared to pre-offer, and like try to scale it to like top line revenue projection, assuming that maybe that ad channel is your number one channel.
I wouldn't try to like stack it up into revenue. I'm just walking through the scenario of like, how might I decide when to scale spend, and when can I
Yeah.
have some certainty that it's okay for my results to be worse currently, right? So I
Yeah.
just, like, kind of logically, it makes sense. Hey, your MER can probably be lower on November 1st, because we know from last year the delta between November 1st 1-day click and 30-day click was twice as big as normal. That
Right.
sort of thinking.
Yeah.
And you
That's
can look at
such a
that and
That's such a good point. I actually forgot we did that last year. We had Northbeam actually pull some of that data, and we were actually talking yesterday about pulling that. Because they pulled from 2022, and we want to now look at last year. It's so interesting because you get a huge lag. You're probably like October spend is probably some of the most profitable spend in terms of having the highest delta between a 1 day and a 30 or whatever it is. You can also look by channel. Like, we found YouTube had a higher delta compared to some
yeah.
others. But did you find like there's no lag during your Black Friday spend? Like, if they don't buy
Yeah.
then, they're like not buying after that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Once you hit Black Friday, that delta gets smaller. Yeah, it's actually, you should be post Black Friday running above your typical targets, because
Mm-hmm.
those people that you prospected who didn't purchase are just less likely to buy in the future, because there's no big sale opportunity waiting. So you can be, I mean, that's like as simple as it gets, right? Your targets can be lower early in November, getting closer to your targets Black Friday, Cyber Monday week, and then post, you should actually completely adjust, because that traffic is just categorically different. All right, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's a tactical roadmap right there.
Yeah.
So one thing we talk about a lot on this podcast is upper funnel investment, measuring YouTube, measuring TV, measuring, out of home, all that kind of good stuff. It's something that's top of mind, but it's not very easy to do. Recently, Jones Road turned to Prescient AI to help us as our new media mix modeling tool, and we have been super impressed. No joke, it's really helped to quantify some of the things that we thought were true, some of the things that some of our tests, showed us, but especially TV was very hard to measure. We were spending about 10% of budget on TV, and we just weren't really sure how it was doing. Spoiler alert, test of the week, it's actually looking great. It's actually looking like our most efficient channel, thanks to Prescient AI. So we are in the midst of scaling it up, and results look good. We are very happy with it. YouTube looks great as well. Been spending and scaling up YouTube a lot based on this data. So we are very happy with it. It's actually not something that we were getting. We didn't feel like we had confident data back from other MMM providers that we worked with before. And so we are thrilled with some of the Prescient data that we are getting. We're getting halo effects. We're actually able to see, how much value are we driving directly from clicks on channel versus how much is coming through organic direct. And it's quite a bit. Being able to measure TV has been really difficult until now, but it feels very accurate and it's giving us a lot of confidence. Things are volatile in D2C. We're able to build these new optimizations, these new scenarios, within days. Setup was super easy, unbiased cross-channel, measurement. We're not on Amazon, but I know brands like HexCloud will use it to also measure and validate, spend going to Amazon. And so we're thrilled. We're super happy with it. Couldn't believe how easy it was. And the team is getting a lot of value out of it. Those are reasons used by top brands like, of course, Jones Road, none other than HexCloud, Good American, Symbiotica, Timbuktu, and many, many more. Mike, the co-founder, hits me and Connor up pretty much every day, just telling them about some of the new brands that signed. A lot of them from listening to this. So we are thrilled with Prescient. It's made a huge difference so far, and it's really going to help us leaning into Q4. So if you want to be like us, like HexCloud, like Jones Road, and many more, go to prescientai.com/operators to book a demo and see for yourself.
Good starting spot. All right. We've got a couple more here. This one's a little bit of a longer one, so stick with me. It'd be helpful for you guys to dive into marketing spend as a percentage of revenue. What do you see as a healthy percentage to spend on total marketing based on size of the company and product margins for an e-commerce company trying to scale? And I think we're going to have to lay out what some of these considerations should be. Coming from a brand that's 35 years old and has made the full pivot from retail to e-commerce, it's hard to communicate with owners of the company on what is a healthy amount to spend on marketing as a percentage of total revenue. I think I spoke with this person, and I'm pretty sure that the historical business ran at a 10x MER. They're 35 years old, multi-million-dollar business, 10x MER. He's trying to justify internally, if we want another dollar in revenue, how much should we be spending on ads? Who wants to take this one first?
I'm happy to kick it off. I think, all right, first off, I'm assuming this business if it's like a legacy brand, it probably has ton of repeat business going on. Is that the case, or is it mainly like an acquisition oriented business?
Let's make some assumptions. Let's say it's really just like a high intent category. They've got good SEO. Maybe there's some amount of retention.
Okay. I mean, I'm always a huge believer to simple. I think this is one of the things in e-commerce that gets so convoluted so quickly, and everyone starts just being over precise to the point where they can't make a decision. I mean, the overall equation you should probably be trying to solve for is just, what's your first order AOV? What's the cost of delivery associated with it? Maybe if you want to apply some sort of SG&A cost to get closer to a bottom line, minus X equals, goal margin, where X is your CAC. And then, and great. That's generally speaking what you need to be solving for and deciding what your first order margin should be. Or if you're a consumable, what CAC will net out to your goal, 12-month lifetime value margin or whatever margin metric you're optimizing towards. That is the starting point always, I think. And then you need to consider business objectives, right? If top line growth is more important than just per order efficiency, great, you're probably going to optimize towards a lower margin and grow top line. Whereas you might change what you're equaling in that equation, which will change your CAC target. But that's how we approach it. I think that's the simplest way to approach it. And I think you can fudge that around based on your business objectives. But I think that's the starting point, probably no matter what your business objectives are.
Would you add anything, Cody?
I could spend years on this topic, or I could spend a whole episode because I literally spent years trying to figure this out. Because I just would always wonder, when I was when I was growing up as a media buyer, just what's a good ROAS? What should my target be? And I talk to everyone, they're getting different ones. And that's kind of what's drawn me to a lot of where we are today, and a lot of the bringing finance and marketing together. So I would say there's a few different ways to look at it. If I have to give an answer, because I think I don't want to not answer the question, it depends on so many things. But if I got to give one, 25 to 30% of your revenue on marketing is probably a good place to be. Just as long as you have fair, appropriate margins, reasonable things, that makes sense. But it's going to depend based on your first of all, your goals. How profitable versus growth oriented do you want to be, right? And then what are your company goals based on that? What are your margins? So what are your variable costs? Your cost of fulfillment and delivery, if I have a 70% landed gross margin compared to a 50%, well, now I can spend 20% more on CAC and have the same level of profit. So that's going to play a factor. And then also, what is your OPEX as a percentage of revenue? And obviously, if you're looking now at EBITDA, the lower your OPEX is, the more you can then put into CAC and have the same, net profit number. So those are all kind of things I would think about. But I would say what I really would do is what really helped me is actually Sean's sensitivity tool that he kind of created, that you guys I think use at Ridge, where you just see like what is the contribution margin and hopefully what's the EBITDA at different levels. So if I spend a million at a 4 MER or 1.5 million at a 3, how much more revenue am I making, and what's that incremental contribution margin of that extra? I forgot the numbers I said. Let's call it 500K in spend. How much extra revenue is that producing? But more importantly, how much extra contribution margin or profit is that extra revenue producing? And it's very possible to grow revenue while actually producing same amount of profit or less profit. And I think that's it. So what it ultimately comes back down to every time we have a board meeting and we're planning and trying to hit our targets is what is going to produce profit with a bias towards growth. How are we going to maximize that contribution margin number? Margin meaning the dollar amount. Most finance terms, when it says margin, it's a percentage. This is actually a dollar amount. What's going to maximize that profit dollar amount? Because all else being equal, fixed costs are, if they're truly fixed, that's how you maximize profit. And if you're talking about valuations or growth or future, let me get the scenario that maximizes contribution margin while also getting more impressions and spend out in the market, acquiring more new customers. So I would probably rather be spending, $1 million at a 4 MER instead of, 500K at a 8 MER. But ultimately it's going to come down to like the business and their goals.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a really important point. Like, you said 4x MER just now. 25% of your revenue is going towards ads. That means nothing without scale, right? Like, and I think that's where people this is where people get it messed up all the time. It's like, well, is it 3x MER good or bad? And for Ridge, that would be horrendous if we were doing like $1 million a month. We wouldn't be able to pay for anything. So you have to take that into account. So really all that matters is or at least the way that we think about it, and this is kind of the sensitivity chart, is like, let's just say there's some base. Let's say, for instance, Ridge is doing $1 million at a 4x MER. So we do $1 million in revenue. We spend 250K on ads. Awesome. 4x. What really matters after that is to produce an incremental dollar of revenue, how much of that do I need to spend on ads? And that's going to be way different. And that's where it just matters unit economic profitability. So what are your variable costs associated with that extra dollar, and how much do you need to spend to get it? Ridge will spend like 60 cents to get that next dollar, because we've been ruthless about driving down COGS, being super efficient, getting variable costs as small as possible so we could be really aggressive in those incremental dollars. Then, so let's say we can spend 60 cents, and let's say that's break even. If we can spend 50 cents, if we get a 2x incremental ROAS, then in theory, we could spend an infinite amount of money at that rate. We're unit economic profitable every additional dollar until our entire business just goes to a 2x MER, because we have a big chunk of revenue that we got at a 2x MER, and at this point, a tiny chunk that we had at our original 4x MER. And I think people miss that. People miss that volume point. Maybe we could put Sean's sensitivity chart in the show notes, because I think that's a good starting place for people who might have questions around this. The last thing that I'll say, which I'm sure we can all agree with, is marketers understanding this concept is essential. And then marketers being able to get the rest of leadership on board with these principles is like a different battle.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Connor, what's a question for you? So you're basically talking about this idea that as you scale, efficiency diminishes, right? And like, it's another concept that marketers are intimately familiar with that I think a lot of finance folks that have never bought an ad aren't. So you're saying like the business as a whole, if you're spending $1 million might be at a 4x, but so you're spending 251K, but that $250,001, that's not at a 4x just because the whole business is. How do you think about like finding that point of diminishing return, like for the business as a whole? maybe I'm not asking that, like, because we can obviously use house for like the channel level stuff.
Right.
Like, how
Totally.
do you figure that? How do you figure out when you're going from 4x to 3x to 2x? That's kind of a hard thing to do, right? Or what's
So
your what?
this is another good MOperators hotline question. I got that exact question in DMs yesterday. I've got another spreadsheet that we use that like uses that exact variable. When you go out to spend another dollar, what's your ROI? And that's going to be typically worse than what your blended results are. And then we also assume that even from there, it's going to get worse as you spend more. And that's like the general cost curve. So how do you get that blended? Like, let's say our entire marketing mix was scaled up a single dollar. Like, what did we actually get on that? I don't know. I have no
It's
answer
hard.
for you.
It's hard,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. No, I'd say it's kind of impossible. Like, how I answered was, you obviously don't scale up the entire marketing mix $1 at a time. So like you do, if you have a way to measure incremental returns of channels, you might have a good sense of that. Maybe for a smaller brand, you just use like Facebook ROAS to say, hey, if I scale up 10% here, 50%, like what is my ROAS?
Like what happens, right? Like what it was here and then it went here, and you could apply that rate or that change to maybe the business as a whole, if you're like very driven by Facebook as your core demand gen.
Yeah, or I would say like if most people are just scaling up by increasing Facebook. So it's like whatever you got there is likely what it is for the
Right.
business.
Right.
The other way to do it is just to look at, did revenue increase, right? Yeah, you just scale up and then you make sure like you're seeing a top line lift. You can calculate, and this one it becomes much softer science, like what was the delta in revenue period over period? What was the delta in spend period over period? What's the delta ROAS between those? We'll do stuff like that, especially when we're in a smaller market like EU or whatever. We can like double Facebook and like, yeah, we want to see revenue increase that amount plus another 50% or whatever if we want to get a 1.5x return. So yeah, nobody likes that answer because it's so unclear. Like you can't go to your board and
Yeah.
be like, yeah, Connor says you can't really do it. Like we just got to see. Like
Yeah.
that's a hard conversation to have too. But there are ways to like kind of validate it over time.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'll say here quickly, this is an easy mistake to make, is people will scale up and they won't like properly validate the results and they'll just like blend down their results. I see this on like non-branded search all the time. We're getting a 2x ROAS. That's awesome. We're way above profitability. Let's spend more. Okay, we spend more. The only thing that happens is cost per click goes up. Revenue actually doesn't increase. We're hitting 1.6 ROAS now. Awesome. Still profitable, still above our goal, but we actually just did a net negative because all we're doing is spending more money to drive the same traffic and conversions. That's like non-incremental return that is really easy to kind of get lost in the shuffle, especially if you're being super growth oriented.
To summarize, Connor has 5 different models that he's triangulating, or pentagon, whatever that word would be, across to answer that question. So it's complicated.
Yeah. But the base, I would say we all hit like the base stuff is like it's a relatively simple equation.
Yeah.
So we recently switched to Richpanel, and I'm pumped. We're loving it so far. I just can't believe how easy migration was. It was super easy. We actually were considering waiting. We just hired a new director of CX, and I was a little bit bummed at first because she was like, "Hey, you know what? I think we should wait till after Q4." But she got on a demo with them. I asked her to do it. She actually did one before where she used to work, and she told me, she was like, "I can't believe." Or I forgot how much I love it. I want to do it right now. It's just so much better than what we're currently using, what she's used in the past. And we've been super pleased with it. The support has been great, and switching was super easy. I actually couldn't believe how easy it was. Our team picked it up super easily. I can't say enough good things. Just sincerely, I can't say enough good things about their team. And here's why else I love it. Our response time went way down since switching. It was much higher than it should have been on other platforms. We were able to add in some auto tagging, some rules. Number of tickets has gone down. Response times have been down. The UX is way cleaner, is what I've heard from our team. The data and reporting is so much better than everything else I've used. And we haven't even scratched the surface on the AI capabilities. We're about to do a demo. Their new kind of AI social moderation tool looks sick, looks awesome. I know Ridge has been using that, so I'm really pumped about that. But just the migration, it couldn't have been easier. We're paying a much better price than we were with other ones, and that's all in. We've got the self-serve features, which are awesome to help reduce number of tickets. I just can't say enough good things. It's really helped our CX team, our CX function, and I'm super happy with it. So if you also want to be like us, like Ridge, switch over. Like I said, migration is a breeze. Just book a demo on richpanel.com.
You guys ready for one more?
Yeah. This is fun. I like this.
Okay, this one, it's a little looser. This was someone that I spoke to. I thought it was a good question, general question. What we just touched on now, I think is really great, actually prepping for Q4. This is a more general business one. Met this guy, home goods brand, $10 to $15 million a year, large catalog, largely Amazon, and he's building out his D2C business. He said, what would be the 2 things you would focus on? And I realize I'm giving you guys very few details, but I'm curious your answers.
The 2 things.
And I'll say this
Well,
also.
what kind of
'cause
business?
home goods,
Home goods.
large catalog, $10 to $15 million a year. So my takeaway there was like, there's product market fit to some degree. Like he's clearly got a business that can be profitable online. He's been doing it for I don't know, I think it was 10 years or something.
It's so hard to like pick one thing without
Well,
knowing that much.
I do think when you're only Amazon, your opportunity to generate demand is just not that you can't do it, but like, what are you going to do? Generate a ton of demand and just send it to Amazon where you have no tracking? Like, you just can't do it as
Oh, they're building out selling on Shopify.
but that's going to be a new channel, right? For them.
But that's the question: is like what do you recommend they do for the new channel, right?
For
Right.
for
So-
D2C,
Shopify,
yeah.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the way it happens now is they do millions on Amazon. He thought of that as brand awareness because they don't do much D2C marketing, but people would find the brand on Shopify and purchase there. So he thought of like almost all of their Shopify sales as like spillover from Amazon, which I thought was really interesting. So yeah, now he's trying to build out like the D2C flywheel.
Mhm. And that's what I would focus on. Demand gen is one of the, and that's a pretty big, that's a pretty big answer. But at the end of the day, he needs to validate like how much top line scale this thing has. And the only way to do that is take a big swing at demand gen. And since he's going to be doing it through Shopify, everything will be better. His data clarity, the contacts he gets post purchase. He doesn't have to worry about like not being able to remarket to people because he's sending it to his .com now. So I'd be really excited to take some really strong demand gen swings, just starting with Facebook ads and really trying to get the best like minimum viable product up for the DTC specific funnels.
I'll jump in with one, and then
Yeah,
Cody,
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't know. So
Yeah,
let me think about it.
One that stuck out to me that I think I see brands like take a misstep around is they'll try to acquire customers off of too like broad of a catalog. Basically, I was like I was trying to hit that point. He's got this really large catalog, and that's typically what you see from like an Amazon brand. They have listings that rank organically like all over the place. So they sell a ton of stuff. Same with D2C. I was like, yeah, I think if you want to scale in D2C, you have to find like a thing that works. Maybe you can be slightly seasonal, but like you're not driving people to a big collections page and letting them find whatever. I was like, you got to like zero in, find the thing that works, and then focus on that scaling. I feel like that's what really like Facebook acquisition lends itself best to. And I think we're all examples of that. We've got Hexclad cookware sets. We've got Ridge wallets. We've got the Miracle Bomb. Like from an acquisition perspective, we're relatively narrow focused.
It's a great piece of advice. Find the hero product.
And then if you can find the hero product, scale up around that, it's kind of a rising tide that lifts all boats. You have people browsing the site, they're buying other things, they're recognizing you on Amazon when you shop there. Like it's not as if you'll only ever sell this like one thing that you've got promoted on Facebook. But that's how, it ends up being, that's the tip of the spear. And then there's a lot of things that kind of spill off from there.
Yeah. That's the first thing to do within figuring out your demand gen. Right? Like
Totally.
figure out the hero product, then you can think about scaling the hero product through all the creative tactics, landing page tactics, offer tactics. But if you don't have the hero product, you could have the coolest ads in the world, but it's not going to convert well.
Yeah, and you just get this like analysis paralysis. I think it's really hard to just drop someone on a big page and like, hey, discover whatever you want. We've got like a million things.
Right.
All right. I'm glad I took some time to think about it. I was going to give a terrible answer because I was going to be like, all right, you need ad creative. And I'm like, all right, but if they didn't nail their D2C offer, if their landing pages or website don't convert, it's not going to work. So it's probably not ad creative. Like it's not one as important as it is. Mine might be a little contrarian, a little devil's advocate. We're all demand gen marketers. We're all, paid social guys. Maybe they shouldn't do demand gen at first. Maybe they should do demand capture because there's clearly demand already by people searching on Amazon. They have shown they know how to play that game, especially something like home goods. There's probably there's no demand to be captured for Ridge wallets, and you guys had to create your own demand. but maybe there's a lot out there, and maybe they should actually play the Google game instead to start.
Dude, I think that's great advice too. Different advice. We're getting
Yeah,
a mixed bag from the
Yeah,
marketing
I like
operators
that.
team.
I like that. What I was gonna say for number two would be, it sounds like they have a big product catalog. Sounds like they have, I should say, it sounds like they have a big catalog of categories. And now that they're going to be selling more through .com, they'll be able to email and text people in a more effective way. So basically, what I would recommend is once they start getting market basket analyses pulled, like, hey, if someone buys the hero product, then I know the top 3 products that they're next most likely to buy are A, B, and C.
Mhm.
I would be taking advantage of all the owned media, like CRM data they're getting, and setting up post-purchase automations, but using the market, like not being random about it, like actually using real data to say these people coming in on these products are most likely to buy these next, and we can enhance that if we just create that experience for them. And then maybe they have some, maybe organically there's something that's not happening, but they think they could make it happen, right? Like, oh, people aren't buying this product organically, but maybe that's just because we're not marketing it well enough. I think it's a natural fit there. And maybe they could kind of unlock some like post purchase, second order plus product market fit by building out and like utilizing the data clarity they get that you just can't really do. I mean, not really, you can't do with Amazon because you're not getting those emails or phone numbers and they're not opting in for owned media. So that would be number two, I think.
Totally. Yeah. I think these are all good answers. The other one that I told him, which I was excited about, frankly, was, I guess I kind of mentioned this earlier, but just like ensuring he continued to look at the business blended. Like I do think
Mhm.
growing D2C efforts via demand capture or demand gen will benefit Amazon, like probably significantly. Um, and it's easy to lose sight of that as well. I mean, it's the same with retail, right? Like brands that have distribution via retail, like sell through in Walmart benefits from your D2C efforts. So just figuring out a way to think about your business a little bit more holistically and understand you're capturing value elsewhere. Because I think people would make the mistake of being like, Facebook says my ROAS is bad and I'm going to turn all these things off now, and like not maybe zoom out, look at the bigger picture.
For sure, definitely.
Cool. All right. We've got one more. It's a hairier one. But I'll get into it. Background: we're a low 8-figure skincare brand, and our new reach is only 3 to 5% every month. So yeah, this is about rolling reach. We talked about it a couple months ago. We spend 6 figures on Facebook ads without problem every month, but we've been having this problem since last July or August. Before that, our new reach was maybe 10 to 15%, but this whole year it's been a struggle. I talked to these people on a call as well. I found myself in a lot of pro bono consulting work via the newsletter. I
Kenny,
talked to
get
these
this guy on
guys.
Mentor Pass. Come on.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the premise. They're really concerned about rolling reach. They're convinced their ad account just will not serve to new people. They've reached a very small percentage of the whole US. 300 million people here or so. I think they've reached 30 or something. So it's not as if my first thought was, hey, you've reached everybody. Like you got to think about that. It naturally declines over time. Do you guys have any thoughts on what could be going on here?
I know you think I'm gonna say they should run reach campaigns, but I don't think they should. They're just not spending enough, so I don't think it's it.
Yeah.
I would say creative diversity. I
Yeah.
I would I would be shocked if you looked in their ad library and all the ads didn't look the same.
Yeah. You got to find new auctions, right? New pockets of people that different ads will reach, different messages.
Okay, can I ask you guys a personal problem that I've been having? Not personal, brand related. It's Rid.
I was gonna say, where's Connor going? I need new deodorant. I can't stop sweating.
No, but it's around creative diversity. So we did an awesome integration with Sean O'Malley before his fight. Unfortunately, he lost, but we did an IG post with him, and it's going to be on his podcast. And we got rights to that content. So we've been running ads with his likeness, and these ads are getting a really high click-through rate. They're not necessarily reaching new people, really high click-through rate, but an incredibly low time on site. Like I've brought this up before. It seemed body. It's why I was in GA4 today trying to figure out what the time on site was for this traffic. It was like 3 seconds, where our average ad is like 30 seconds plus. And we see this kind of consistently with ads with celebrities in them, and I don't know what to make of it. Do you guys have any initial some proposed solutions?
Yeah, I'm curious your take because you probably also have more, celeb ads, and it's something we're planning to do more of for next year. Um, I mean, as long as you can verify it's not, bots, maybe these people are just like very interested in the celebs. Are you either whitelisting or running partnership ads from their pages, or it's coming from Ridge?
No, these are coming from Ridge.
Okay. Is there any evidence, like what's like percent new visits?
90%. So it's like slightly above average.
That's high. Wow. That's like, I wonder if you're reaching this person's audience either through, just a model of people, that Meta's creating that thinks they're going to engage with his content. And it's just people that are interested in like, what's he doing rather than like this product.
Totally agree. Also, I love this ad. I'm watching it right now in the library. This is cool. This is a fun ad. I mean, something about it. It's purchase conversion, right?
Yeah.
Like something about it is just like, for what, I don't know why, but I think Cody's reason is like a good one. Just like found a low intent pocket on Facebook. I wonder if you like didn't open with him, like to like address Cody's hypothesis. Like if you didn't open with him, you opened with Ridge and then you transitioned.
That's a cool idea.
So maybe like if the first 5 seconds aren't Sean O'Malley, it won't be going into this like low intent, like Sean O'Malley fanboy audience that it seems to be going into. And I wonder how much like having @SugarSean is the first line of copy like affects things. Who knows?
Yeah. I'm gonna try that. I think that's a really good point. So yeah, thanks for letting me tune into MOperators Hotline.
Cody, that was a good tag team.
Yeah, he's giving out a lot of pro bono consulting, but he's also getting a fair bit. So.
Well, Cody and I take a percentage of ad spend, just so you know. We're on the no cap on it, 10% though. So competitive to some of the other services out there.
On advice, dude. That's a high margin services business.
Yeah, we didn't even produce it. We just had an idea.
Yeah, awesome. Well, cool. You guys want to wrap it there?
Yeah, that was good. That was fun.
All right. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If you've got questions of your own, reminder, there's a link in the show notes. So submit whatever you want, and it might make it on a future episode. And if you found this valuable at all, make sure to subscribe, share with your friends. We appreciate it. As always, thank you to our sponsors, Motion, Prescient, and Richpanel.